Who wants to be inspired? Unfortunately, the way of our social environment and the way that our brain is wired, it means that from time to time in our lives, we all need to be inspired. Our natural tendencies as man means that the older we become, the more conservative and risk-averse we become. Where before we just did things without thinking, we now have to deliberate upon them a little bit more, to the extent that at some point in our lives we just don't act at all. But it hasn't always been like this, has it? Can you remember when you were a child? Can you remember when you were learning how to ride a bicycle? Furiously pedaling along the path, losing your balance, going to the left and the right, with your father behind you with the steady hands and the reassuring voice. Falling off, or failure, even worse, didn't enter your mind. In fact, falling off was just part of the journey. And if you did, you would just get back on straight away and off you would go. You didn't have a worry in the world. You sure didn't worry about the scorn of your peers, about public pressure, about a diminished reputation. No, they're all things that we worry about as adults. That is, may I say it, the bullshit that we adults engineer into our lives to complicate things. But we should not despair, because when we don't know how to proceed in life in some respect, we can always fall back on inspiration. The world is awash with individuals who have achieved great things in their lives. And we can use these things to inspire ourselves to achieve our own goals. But what if on a particular day, when we need to do something important for our own dreams, what if we cannot summon the energy or the motivation to get out of bed and do what we have to do? Because it can happen. After all, what inspires you may not inspire me. We are different people. Well, on these days, I tell you that you should just take stock of your situation and look within yourself. You should find the inspiration within you. After all, we all have a story. We've all travelled this path throughout our lives, a path that has led us to this very point where we stand today. And that journey that we have taken, it has been, I can guarantee you, everyone in this room has faced fear, has faced disappointment, has faced danger. I can guarantee you everyone here has faced some type of adversity which they have had to overcome. It is these moments which you need to take and to bottle and to use when there is nothing else. I want to share with you just one small story of mine, a personal story which I use sometimes for my own inspiration. When I left school and started in the workforce, I consider myself one of the most insecure, introverted, socially challenged people in the world. I'm sure there was many others, but I reckon I was just right at the top. Anything more than a one-on-one situation, and I was a basket case. I would have panic attacks. I would be profusely sweating, more than just the sweaty palms. I was embarrassingly sweating. And I even had a breaking of my voice to the extent that sometimes I found it hard to speak. I needed to change. So I went along to a public speaking club in Australia, and I stood at the back, sat at the back, tried my best not to interact, not to speak. But after 3 or 4 weeks of attending and using up my privileges of being a visitor, my no speaking privileges, and therefore knowing that soon the day would come where I was going to be thrust into the spotlight and be required to say something meaningful. So I quit. After a few months and some self-reflection, I gave it another go. But I went with the same mindset and I failed again. I repeated this process 3 or 4, maybe 5 times. 3 or 4 or 5 different clubs. In a nation full of introverts, that's one benefit. There's a club on every corner. There's only one of them, Martin. I become an expert in learning how to avoid speaking. I would hide in the back corner behind the big guy. I would pull out my hanky and blow my nose, or make sure I had a mouthful of food just when the Toastmaster was looking around to select his next victim. You. I knew all the tricks. The only trick that I didn't know was how to trick my mind into telling me to come out of my comfort zone. After 2 years of trying, or maybe it was pretending to try, I wasn't getting anywhere, so I quit again. Fast forward to when I came to our Martin a few years ago. And I, for some reason, straight away sought out this club. I don't know why. I still don't. But today, 5 years later, I'm still here. Still coming to the meetings, still participating. I don't know what changed in me. Maybe it was the hard-nosed edge I had gained over that preceding 20 years, which didn't want to accept failure. I doubt that, but maybe that's true. But let me tell you, I'm not doing it easy. Far from it. I'm still very uncomfortable up here today, in front of you all. But I can do it. I still hate more than anything impromptus. So Olga, please don't choose me later on. I'm sure you don't choose you. But I still do it. The only thing which has changed is that I enjoy coming here every week, every Wednesday, for my torture session and to confront my demons. This is my own inner inspiration. I encourage you all to look inside you deeply and to find your own inner inspiration and to let it shine down on you. Thank you.